Hey guys, welcome to Draft and Drive. My name is Lex, along with my co host Josh. We are siblings who are NASCAR enthusiasts, and today we're going to talk about the 2026 season preview of the NASCAR season. I guess we can just dive right into it. First, we can start off by saying that there is no playoffs this year. It is just turned straight into the chase, which they used to do. What are your thoughts on going from the playoffs to the chase?
I wanted the chase. That's what I wanted the whole time. I know there's a lot of 36ers out there. Not part of that club. Won't be part of that club. I like a little playoff. And this is I think the best compromise you can get. What about you?
I agree with the best compromise. I did not like the one race winner takes all. I hated that. I thought that was unfair. But I think the chase is a good compromise. Like you said, a lot of people wanted the 36 race straight through. Some people like the playoffs, and I think the chase is the perfect compromise. Going into that, the Cup is still going to have 16 drivers going into the playoffs. The O'Reilly Series is going to have 12 drivers going into the playoffs. You want to start with O'Reilly?
Let's do it.
All right, well, I'll just start by saying my 12 drivers that I think are going to make the playoffs. So I'm going to go William Sawalowicz. I always screw up his name. Austin Hill, Jesse Love, Taylor Gray, Brandon Jones, Carson Quaffle, Sam Mayer, Corey Day, Sheldon Creed, Ryan Sieg, Sammy Smith, and then I have the champion is going to be Justin Allgaier. And then I had two drivers outside looking in, and that's going to be Raja Caruth and Brent Cruz.
Interesting. I have neither one of those drivers. Actually, I have Raja in. So I'm just gonna go 12 through 2, I guess. I got Harrison Burton, Sam Mayer, Raja Caruth, Sheldon Creed, Brennan Jones, Sammy Smith, Jesse Love, Austin Hill, William Sawalich, Justin Allgaier, Carson Quaffle, with the champion being Taylor Gray.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think he's poised for a big 2026. Some of my predictions, I predict William Sawalich to have a much better year. Obviously, he started getting things going towards the end of the year. First part of the year was pretty garbage. I expect him to have a much better, significantly better 2026. Also, I do expect is it Austin Green, I believe, is now in a Jordan Anderson car. I expect him to do very well because he's had like very little starts and like almost all of them have been top tens. He's very good at road courses. I expect him to do well. He's kind of like my underdog pick that I think is going to do well. And then the pick I think might underachieve, the front runner, quote unquote. I don't think Corey Day. I think he's going to need some time to adjust. I think he might be like a little bit of like a Jesse Love. Like it's going to take him time to figure it out. But obviously Jesse Love, most recent champion, he did figure it out, and I expect Corey Day will do the same. But I think it's going to take some time. I think 2026. I don't think he's going to make the playoffs. Do you have anybody who you think is going to improve on the season?
Well, I'll bounce off yours because I think Sheldon Creed with the switch to Chevy is finally going to get his first win this year. No more second place guy. He's finally going to get his dub. So he's someone that I see that will improve. And then I'll also say Harrison Burton. I think, they had a year. Well, he's changing teams this year. But I think he's ready I think wherever he goes, he brings experience now. And he can help lead the team. And I think he'll be better this year, going to another year in Xfinity to kind of build himself up. I think his average running finish will be improved. I still don't see him making the playoffs, but I think he'll be running better than he did last year. And then someone that I think is going to maybe be a bit of an underdog, I could see Carson Quaffle. Watching him, I just don't see him being a top junior motorsports driver that I see some of the other drivers be. It could be the lack of experience, and maybe he needs a couple of years to get there, kind of like, Jesse Love. And, again, it takes time for some people, but I just think Carson Quaffle is either going to need that couple of years of experience, or he's maybe just not cut out for it, to be honest.
Yeah, he's definitely not as flashy as his junior motorsports teammates.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that maybe with the new format, not rewarding winning as much, consistency, I think maybe he could make a playoff run. But I do think junior motorsports, I mean, it's almost impossible for them to improve in 2026 based on, coming off 2025. I expect them to have a down year I don't even know what that looks like. But there's no way in my opinion, they're going to get as many wins or do as well as they did in 2026.
Well, I mean, having Connor Zilic and Justin Allgaier on your team in 1 year, it's probably going to be pretty hard to beat that going forward.
Yeah.
Especially with, again, the lack of experience you have with Carson Quaffle and then Raja Karuth. I mean, they are bringing in drivers to share the ride with Hendrick Motorsports with Chase Elliott, William Byron, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Larson. So they can probably get those wins there, but they want to win the championship, and those drivers can't win them the championship. So we'll see. We'll see how this year goes for Junior Motorsports. I'm not sure it's going to be as you kind of said, flashy as it was this previous year. I think Joe Gibbs Racing might come out as being the top team this year.
Specifically the 54 team, my prediction. Now, I do have a couple, I guess it's really only one more, like, thing for the Xfinity Series, and this is more so Daytona specific, is who can stop Austin Hill. The end 5 laps, like, the last, 10 laps of a super speedway race, it seems like the rest of the field takes their brain out, chucks it out their window, and just says, you know what, let's just let the 21 car win, because he really just has it easy. Who can stop the guy? I don't know. We haven't seen anybody yet. Maybe Jesse Love? Will he and Jesse Love and Austin Hill, will they get together and control the field as they've done so many times?
I know you won't be able to see my paper, but if I showed you right now, my Daytona prediction for the Xfinity Series is Austin Hill.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like horse racing. You know, you've got the guy who's like, you know, everyone is like, you know, blank to 1, 40 to 1. And then you've got the guy who's like,
3
I
to
don't
1.
know, 8 to 9 or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're going to lose money by picking anybody but that guy because they're pretty good. And Austin Hill is very good at the super speed race.
So then who's your pick?
Austin Hill. I have my one surprise, like, potential underdog pick kind of is maybe Jeb Burton, because he is pretty good at the super speedways, and not to dog on the guy, but do you remember, like, when he was really close last year and then he was like, you know, cried about it because he was very emotional because that was his best shot? I think you could look out for him. Also, he's dangerous, and I mean that in all sorts of the ways.
Yeah, it was him versus Sam Mayer last year, right?
I do not remember who it was with. I just remember the tears. Not to frame it in a bad way, but...
No, that Jeb Burton said he was going to beat him up. Wasn't it him? It was him and Sam Mayer?
I think it was Sam Mayer and a couple people at different parts of the year, so...
Well, if you didn't have anything else, though, Riley, we can go to the Cup playoff predictions.
Okay. So I'm going to go from 16 to, I guess, whatever, second. I've got Carson Hocevar. I've got Shane Van Gisbergen. I've got Ty Gibbs, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, Brian Blaney, Kyle Larson, William Byron, my champion, Christopher Bell.
Okay.
What do you got?
Do you have any outside looking in that are close?
I mean, I think Cindric will be close because he's always kind of in that. Like, if he didn't lose, because he got like a penalty last year early on, I think it was for wrecking Ty Dillon at Sonoma. Got a big points penalty, I think. I think if he wasn't for that, he was going to be probably in the playoffs on points. So he was close regardless, so I expect him to still be close. But he was kind of my one that was like on the fence. Also on the fence, probably Ryan Preece. Easy to say that now after the clash, but I expect he'll be close too.
Alright, so I'll do mine. So I got Carson Hocevar, Joey Logano, Shane Van Gisbergen, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and then my champion being Kyle Larson. And then outside looking in, I also have Austin Cindric, but I also have Connor Zilic.
Interesting.
I think he's going to have a decent rookie of the year.
I'm still on the fence if it's going to be decent or if it's going to be, like, catastrophic. Because I think it can either really go one of two ways, but I don't have Tyler Reddick in my playoffs. I think
I
that's
did notice
interesting.
that you and I had one different, and I was trying to see who it was, because you have Brad Keselowski.
Mm-hmm.
With Connor Zilic, I think, obviously he's a lock for Rookie of the Year, because I'm pretty sure that there's no one else that's going for Rookie of the Year. So he already won that award.
Yeah, he's just gonna
But
he has to have a pulse for the 36 races. He's got it.
I think that, he already does have some experience with on the road course races. I think it's obviously going to be a culture shock when he gets in, because the experience level from Xfinity to Cup is way different. And you see a lot of these guys when they go from Xfinity to Cup, or now O'Reilly to Cup, it's going to be, they're just all of a sudden not performing at the highest level that you think they would be, and they're racing in the 20s, and it takes them a while to get there. But I think Connor Zilic, he does have a little bit of experience. I think he's still better than a lot of these guys on road courses, and I think he'll gradually get better, like Shane Van Gisbergen did over the last, couple of years that he's been racing. But yeah, I think Connor Zilic, and again, Austin Cindric I also had looking in. I think he'll be close, but I just don't think he'll make that 16th spot. And Carson Hocevar, I think, is just so... He's getting better. And, as long as he can keep himself out of trouble and out of trouble with other people, I think he'll be okay and make that 16th spot.
Yeah, he's definitely, I would say, the top at Spire. But, also, Spire, every weekend it seems they've got speed in practice, they've got speed in qualifying, they start up front, but then it's kind of like Austin Cindric, honestly. They start up front, and then they just continuously drift towards the back as things happen, and then they can never recover. So, obviously, hope to see that shift for Spire and Austin Cindric. But
All right, and then we'll do your Daytona pick. Who do you think is going to win the race?
My Daytona pick. So is this my Daytona pick or is this my 36 for 36 pick?
I have both, but if you want, let's do your 36 for 36 first.
My 36 for 36 is Cole Custer. He was there at the end last year in the Daytona 500 before causing the massive crash. And I think he's been in the mix of other super speedways. Obviously, you're not picking him anywhere else, probably, until we see a little more from Haas and probably him. But he is my 36 for 36. What is yours?
So mine is Riley Herbst. Kind of the same thing. You're probably not going to pick him many other places. But he does have actually one of the best average finishes here. He only has raced 3 races here, but he does have one of the best average finishes. I want to say it was 17th. And again, as long as he can keep out of trouble, which that's just a flip of a coin, then there's no other better place to pick him than I feel like at Daytona. Mm-hmm. And then my winner for Daytona, I'm picking Christopher Bell.
Interesting. Won the Atlanta last year? Second race of the year?
Last year. Well, he won 3 races in a row last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then that was it, right? He didn't win anything after that?
He won those 3 races, and I think he won one more, didn't he? I don't know. I can't remember.
Don't know either. My pick, I think your pick is good, by the way, but my pick is Ross Chastain. I think a Chevy gets it done this year. Well, I can't say that, even though William Byron's won past 2, but generally I like to pick the 4 drivers at the super speedways for obvious reasons. But I think it's Chastain's year, because he's always in the mix. And I don't know. I just got a good feeling.
He's aggressive.
Very aggressive.
He won't let anyone stay out of his way.
Nope. And I guess speaking of William Byron's 2 in a row, what are the chances that he gets 3 in a row?
There's a chance, but I don't think he will. I think last year was kind of a gift that it was right place, right time. I don't know if you remember the finish last year, but he was running like 10th place. And then all of a sudden he's coming around turn 2 or on the backstretch, and all of a sudden he got the lead with everyone crashing in front of him. So I think it's, there's a chance, but I think it's going to be very difficult for him. And at some point your luck runs out. And at some point you're going to be involved in a crash. And he's due.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say he's got a chance, like you said, but I think it's, 1 in 40. Like, that's the odds, and I think I do not see a repeat happening.
1 in 41. Don't forget Jimmy Johnson.
That's true. Excuse me. Jimmy Jam
All
in
right.
the
Well,
500.
so me and you are gonna have a competition, but we're still figuring out what the prize is gonna be. We'll have it sorted before the Daytona 500 starts, but we're gonna do a competition between us for who picks the most winners this year. Um, we're still working on our ideas, and if they're gonna do either a prize or a punishment. So
Let us know if you got any ideas, because we're desperate for we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
all right, you want to do? So I figured we could talk about a couple new drivers and teams. So I can just cover this quick. So Shane Van Gisbergen obviously is staying with Trackhouse, but he is changing to the number 97 this year. Trackhouse Racing decided to let Daniel Suarez go, and Daniel Suarez got picked up by Spire Motorsports and is taking over the 7 car while Justin Haley goes to trucks. And that left a vacant seat in Trackhouse Racing, and they're picking up Connor Zilic from the Xfinity Series, now the O'Reilly Series, and he is going to drive the 88 car this year. All right, going forward, let's talk about some talking points for the 2026 season. So, first I wanted to talk about the good surprise. So I thought, a driver that maybe is going to be a surprise of the year that you didn't really see it coming, or that they're just starting to perform really well. And so I did 2 for each one. My first one was Carson Hocevar. Wow. He is getting better each and every week. He is taking a crappy team for Spire Motorsports, and he is helping make them better. And obviously, Michael McDowell, I think with his experience, is making them better too. But I think Carson Hocevar is really going to lead that team. And obviously, he just signed a long-term contract, so, he's going to want to perform there. And he knows he's not going anywhere, and it's time to shine. So, my good surprise of the year is Carson Hocevar. And then actually, similar situation I have with Bubba Wallace. I think Bubba Wallace is also getting better. I think he had his best year last year, and I think his 2026 is going to be even better.
I think especially with because Bubba Wallace is kind of like in that camp, in my opinion, with he's kind of like a Chris Buescher, where it's just, they're not, like we were talking about Carson Quaffle. They're not like flashy. They're not going out getting all these wins, but they are super consistent. And I think with this new playoff format, that will reward Bubba Wallace and Chris Buescher. Because I got them both in the playoffs. I think you did too. I think it'll reward both of them. And I also think that it will reward Brad Keselowski, who's going to be my surprise pick. Obviously, a down year last year, no wins. Wasn't really super in contention anywhere. I expect him to do a lot better. And I would say my pick that maybe I don't expect to do as well, even though he didn't do as well as it was, but I think Kyle Busch. I think RCR just, if it ain't Richmond, it hurts to see.
Well, you might want to punch me in the face after this, because my surprise bad, remember I told you 2 drivers, so I also have Kyle Busch. I think his last year didn't go the way he expected, and while I think Austin Dillon finished, he kind of kept improving as the year went on. I thought Kyle Busch was getting actually worse. But my other one was Brad Keselowski. One, I'm worried about the injury. Wondering if he is rushing coming back, and I don't know. I just don't see his year going as planned. I see him, because you kind of hit that age, in NASCAR, and they always say, you kind of have performance drop off, and he's hit that age. Now he also has an injury on top of it. How is his 2026 season going to look? I don't know. For him, I just think him and Kyle Busch both are just not going to have the years that they're hoping for. Hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see. And again, now with Brad Keselowski having to battle that injury, will he be healed when he comes back? Or will he get re-injured in a wreck at Daytona or at another racetrack? These wrecks are vicious at these tracks with such high speeds. Is he fully healed?
Yeah, especially with the next gen too. There's no guarantee, Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go into my shocking winner. My shocking winner, I could see, this could be a hot take, but I could see Connor Zilic getting a road course win at one of these tracks this year.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Van Gisbergen obviously is the best on the road courses, and you really don't expect him to lose on the road course. It's more shocking when he doesn't win. But I think Connor Zilch is going to give him a run for his money, and I think Connor Zilch is going to get a win this year, and it's going to be on one of the, what is it now, 4 road courses now that we lost the Roval.
Yeah. I would say my shock, it's you might not consider it a shock based on the team, but I do think Ty Gibbs. I think it also kind of knocks off too because I think it'll be his first win, so it'll be a first time win. I know that graphic was circulating on some social page for NASCAR. I think he gets his first win, and I think it will be a bit of a shock because he's got talent. You've seen him in Xfinity. He's got talent. You've seen him even in Cup, but for whatever reason, just can't put it all together. I expect him to do that this year, even though I predicted that he's going to get a win past like 2 years. But I do think this is the year finally he gets it together.
And then that kind of goes into my next category of first-time winner. I do have Ty Gibbs and Connor Zilch. I think they both will get wins this year. I think it's more a matter of a time and when instead of if. So, yeah, I would lock them both in for a win this year. And then for my next category, for someone that goes winless, I have Austin Cindric and Austin Dillon. I think Austin Cindric, I don't know. Again at the speedways, your luck runs out, and he got a win last year. Obviously, Atlanta he was close. Obviously, Daytona he was close. But I just think this year, I don't know. We'll see. But I just don't think Austin Cindric will get the win this year. And then Austin Dillon, I think his luck also runs out. I know he's won the last 2 at Richmond, but I just think that someone else is gonna pull it off this year, and Austin Dillon will also go winless.
Yeah. I would say my one winless driver I have is probably Alex Bowman. I don't expect it to happen. I know there's a ton of pressure with that, and we can get into that a bit later with that seat, always being rumored, for different people. But I do not think he's going to get a win. He won. What did he win? He won Chicago last year?
2 years ago.
What did he win last year? Anything?
No.
I guess it's not that shock of a winless winner then, but he's still my pick. Because, regardless of who it is, he's on Hendrick. You expect wins. That's that.
Well, then that's a good segue into my final superlative for jobs on the line. So number 1 on my list is Alex Bowman. Number 2 is Austin Cindric. And then my other 2 are Daniel Suarez and Riley Herbst. And I think all 4 of them need to perform this year. Especially Riley Herbst. I think it's... Obviously, he's still learning and he only had 1 year. But when you have 2 drivers that are consistently getting... Well, one driver was generally... Tyler Reddick is usually right around the top 5. Between 5th and 10th. And Bubba Wallace, I'd say right around 10th place for most races. And you're finishing in the 30s every race... Wow, red flag. I think especially with Corey Heim, rumored to be taking it over, and yeah, he's going to be racing 12 races this year, Corey Heim is, and you know that it's going to probably be a battle between you and Corey Heim for the seat. You have to perform. Daniel Suarez, obviously I believe it's just a 1-year deal he has with Spire, but this is probably his last shot. He's got to perform. He was on Joe Gibbs. He got let go of Joe Gibbs. He was on Trackhouse. He got let go of Trackhouse. Like, this is your shot. You got to prove that you belong there. Austin Cindric on Penske. You could probably say he is usually the worst performing one on Penske. Same with Hendrick Motorsports and Alex Bowman. He's the worst one on Hendrick. Alex Bowman is the worst one performing one on Hendrick. You got to perform. Otherwise, your seat's going to be filled.
Yeah. Bowman, obviously, I already covered that. I agree. Austin Cindric, I do agree. I think he does need to get better. However, I do think now there is less pressure because Roger Penske just rehired his dad again. I don't know what's going on with that, but now I think there is less pressure than before. I already, he said Roger Penske vouched for Cindric in the past, but, what is he going to do? Not if he planned on keeping him, for 1 more year or whatever. I think he absolutely does need to get better. He needs to show more. Obviously, he was kind of like I was talking about before with the Spire cars. Qualifies great, practice is all right, and then as the race goes on, just continues to fall towards the back and can never recover. If anything goes wrong, throw the day away. He's finishing back in 25th. It doesn't matter. So he's got to get himself together, 100%. And I do think they were making strides towards like the middle of the year, and then they kind of fell back into their old ways. The playoffs, the first round was a disaster. The second round somehow got worse. But let's see. What else we said? Riley Herbst, I agree, absolutely. Does need to get better. Corey Heim waiting in the wings. If you're Herbst, the seat is very warm, especially because, Denny Hamlin just was in a press conference saying, yeah, they better get better. I think he was lucky last year that 23XI as a whole did not do big numbers. Nobody really went on. Did it? I don't think neither one of them won last. Oh no, Bubba won at.
Bubba Wallace, what? Indy.
Yeah, but one win across the organization. He's lucky. If they pop off, if one of them pops off this year, Bubba or Tyler Reddick, I would say bye Riley Herbst for now. And Swartz, I don't. If it's a 1-year deal, I guess I would agree with you, but I didn't really think about that because I was like, 1 year, he's going, to I would argue a worse team, and the 7 team has never been the, Pied Piper of Spire.
Right.
They've always had cars that are a little better than that, but I didn't really think about Suarez. But I guess if it is a 1-year deal, then you do kind of have to think because, like you said, he's been on, 3 you could call marquee teams, but I don't have much to say about that one, but I do agree.
So I didn't tell you I was doing this, but I have a game to play after this, and you're going to be put on the spot.
Okay.
So you're going to tell me if the driver is going to finish better or worse than they finished in the point standings for 2025. Now, you do need to remember that if you made the playoffs, you're automatically up to 16th.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have Josh Berry on here, but he finished 16th in the points, and most likely you would say he'd probably finish worse.
Yeah.
All right, ready? So I have 10 of them. You ready?
Let her rip.
Ryan Blaney, 6th in points. Better or worse in 2026?
That is tough. That is really tough. Because he is, he's got speed. They go out and they win. But they also, especially early on in the last year, crashed a lot of DNFs. And that is not going to be as rewarded or I should say, as forgiving in this new system, playoff system. I'm going to say I think he performs better.
Bubba Wallace, 11th in points. Better or worse in 2026?
I think better.
SVG, 12th in points last year.
A little worse.
Austin Cindric, 14th in points last year.
A little worse.
Ty Gibbs, 19th in points last year.
Dear God, I hope better. For his own sake.
Brad Keselowski, 20th in points last year.
Hopefully better, assuming he doesn't re-injure himself.
Mm-hmm. Kyle Busch, 21st in points last year.
I think better.
Carson Hocevar, 23 in points last year.
Better.
Daniel Suarez, 29th in points last year.
Could it get worse? I'm thinking it might.
I say you keep having people get better. Someone's got to get worse.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's already bringing up the rear.
Mm-hmm. Were you saying worse?
I still say worse. Yeah.
All right, last one. Noah Gragson, 34th in points.
Like that is actually almost dead last.
Yeah.
I want to say worse again. I have not seen a ton from him I don't know how long his deal lasts for, but I don't. That'd be another seed I'd say is burning hot. Because you don't hear about him until he's, backwards.
In the
parts
wall.
flying off the car. Yeah.
That was it for my game. The only other thing I have is some open car predictions for Daytona 500. I figured we could guess who we thought was going to make it in.
Sure. Do you have the list with you? Because I don't have it with me.
Yes, I have all of them. So Jimmy Johnson.
Someone came prepared.
Jimmy Johnson makes it in automatically. After that, 4 other drivers make it in. You ready for the names? Chandler Smith, Justin Allgaier, J.J. Yaley, Anthony Alfredo, Casey Mears, Corey Heim, B.J. McLeod, and Corey LaJoy. I can repeat them if I need to.
I think Allgaier makes it. I think Heim makes it.
Mm-hmm.
I think BJ makes it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say it's a toss-up between Alfredo, Chandler Smith, and LaJoy. But I think that Chandler Smith will get in.
All right, so you and I only had one different. So I also had Chandler Smith, Allgaier, and Heim, and then instead of McLeod, I had LaJoy.
That's the one, like, common sense says you probably should pick Corey LaJoy. But that black 78, it's got something in my heart. I gotta believe. BJ will make it in the show.
And you also know all these people are driving desperate during the duel on Thursday night, so it's going to be all hell breaks loose, hammer down.
Especially LaJoy, after he did not make the main event in the duel, is going to be looking for revenge. So I already kind of covered this, and we've already talked about it a little bit. But my thing was kind of like, what is going on with RFK? Because they're coming off of a down year. No wins last year. They were not really in contention anywhere. Everybody had lower numbers last year. Buescher had 5 top 5s last year, or the year before he had 6. Brad had 6 top 5s. He had 9 the year before. And then Priest had 3, but I think the year before that he was at Haas, so you can't really compare. But now we're just coming off of Ryan Priest winning at the Clash. So now is it, do you expect RFK to turn things around a little bit? Or do you expect kind of more of the same? I think they have to get better. Because I think they're not like, it's not like it's like Rick Ware Racing. You know what I mean? Like they've got a budget. And I don't mean to be rude, but like they've got a budget. They've got, good people in place. I don't think they, especially with the new, I say it again, with the new playoff system, I expect them, they're all pretty consistent people, not super flashy. So I expect them all to have a significantly better year.
Well, you're asking me, and I told you my surprise in a bad way was going to be Brad Keselowski, so there's my thoughts on that. I think Chris Buescher's going to have a better year. I also think this format, if you will, for the chase helps him in that sense. He's not someone that's going to go out and get a win every single week, but consistency, he's consistent. And so I think that's going to help him. I think the same for Ryan Priest. Obviously, he won the Clash. I don't probably see him winning again this year unless it's something at, like, Daytona or Talladega or at Atlanta. And at Daytona, you just hope he keeps his car upright, if anything.
Yeah.
But RFK, so I'd say they're probably going to be a little bit better, but I don't think it's going to be flashy. I don't think they're going to get that many wins. If anything, I'd see maybe 1 between the 3 of them. Yeah, I don't know. And again, with Brad Keselowski's injury, I'm a little concerned for his season this year.
Expectations are a little lower because of that.
What are your thoughts on Denny Hamlin's injury? Do you think that'll hurt him? I didn't even write this down. This is just something I thought of.
I could see it hurting him. I don't that is actually part of the reason why he's not in my quote unquote final 4 in the point standings, because of his injury. So, I mean, do you expect it to hurt him?
I don't think, it's tough coming off of this past year with 6 wins and nearly winning the championship, but I don't think he's going to be as consistent this year, and I think as time goes on, the pain's probably going to be worse, and it's going to be harder for him to manage his car, and there's no road course in the chase, the playoffs, but which I think is good for him, because again, if time goes on and the injury gets worse, he's not going to be having to take all these tough movements, but how will he perform in the chase? How is it performing at Daytona and Talladega and Atlanta and taking those impacts? Will it hurt
Yeah.
you more?
Yeah, from another prediction I have is I expect that his teammates are gonna have a big year. I expect JGR to be pretty good because Hamlin, even with the injury, I still think he gets at least a couple wins. Bell is extremely consistent. I think he'll make a very deep playoff run. Briscoe, last year I'd have been the first to tell you before the season started, this guy's not going to do nothing. He's going to be terrible. And he shut me up because he was really good, and I expect him to continue to get better this year. And like I said before, Ty Gibbs, I do expect him to get his first win. The bubble has to burst. I think he has to get it all done. I expect JGR to have a big year. Is this the year Kyle Busch wins the Daytona 500?
I'm gonna say probably not. I think a lot of the times lately he's been his own worst enemy, and he's also caused a lot of wrecks in the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to predict whether who's gonna win a Daytona 500 because again, like I said earlier, it's like a coin flip. Are you gonna wreck or are you not?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's been his own worst enemy at a lot of races last year, and if he can survive it, maybe. But he's also going against some top names that are really good restrictor plate racers. You know, the Fords are really good at Daytona and Talladega and Atlanta. The Chevys are also pretty decent, but also who's going to be around there at the end? Will Austin Dillon be around him at the end? Who's your pusher?
The reason I always say that is because obviously Kyle Busch gets asked that like every year, like, well, man, you know, Clint Boyer will have him sit down. Well, man, is this the year you boys finally get it together? And the reason I also say that is because I feel like RCR, specifically for the 500, I don't know what it is, they always build fast cars, and then Kyle Busch always wrecks in the duel, and its car's done. But they build fast cars for the 500, and I expect to put like him on my spoiler. I expect to put him on my fantasy team.
Fantasy team?
Because I know they're going to bring a fast car because they always do for the 500 RCR and the 500. It's just, it goes hand in hand. I don't expect him to win. Like I said, I am picking Ross Chastain, but just wanted to do a little temperature check on you. I got two more 500. Well, this one's not really 500 specific, but is Denny Hamlin no longer elite at super speedways? My opinion is yes, because his last win on a super speedway came in 2020. He's horrible in the next gen. Horrible. The guy does not know what he's doing. He just doesn't have the feel for it like he did with the Gen 6. And that's why, like, they're always talking about, like, in the booth or whatever, like, oh man, Denny Hamlin, he's super good at these. And I'm like, I have not put him on a fantasy team of mine for a restrictor plate or for a super speedway. Probably since I started doing fantasy, 2-3 years ago? The guy will not stay on a team for me because I just don't trust him. He doesn't got it. Thoughts?
I think he's caught up again in a lot of other people's messes. I think he has the experience and he can get his car up there. Because I will say, I do think he can navigate to the front, which a lot of people can't do. He is able to squirrel his way through and get himself to the front. But I do think a lot of the times he is in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I think he is taken out. Because if you remember, at the last lap of the Daytona 500 last year, who was battling Austin Cindric?
That's true.
Denny Hamlin. So he can get himself there. It's whether or not he gets himself involved in a wreck or, again, involved in someone else's mess. I still would consider him elite. I think he's probably due for a restrictor plate win. I think he has a better shot than Kyle Busch.
I would say Kyle Busch has a better shot at winning the Daytona 500. I think anywhere else, I would agree with you. I think Denny Hamlin probably has a better chance. And then I got one more. Will it take a win at a super speedway to end the talks that Kyle Larson is bad at them? Or has he proved enough already? Because he's got a ton of stage wins. Last year he was in contention at Talladega before he ran out of gas. Seems to be a trend with the most recent clash. But also this article from Dustin Albino. He had the second most points on drafting tracks behind Tyler Reddick. He was 2 points behind Tyler Reddick. So he almost had the most points will it take a win to shut up the people who say that he doesn't know how to race in a super speedway?
Well, your own worst critic, I feel like, is the people around you. And I'll never forget when people, I don't remember who it was, but was interviewing Owen Larson. And they're asking about Kyle Larson, getting a win. And Owen Larson says, he's not good at restrictor plate tracks. To the reporters! But I do think he's getting better. So, Atlanta last year, he was part of that 3-wide finish. Daytona 500, I don't think he was a factor. Talladega, he was the one that pushed, Austin Cindric to the win. He finished around 3rd or 4th at Talladega. Going forward to Daytona Atlanta, I don't remember if he was a factor, I can't remember. Going forward to Daytona in the summer race, bad lane choice he got into. He got into like one of the middle lanes and that just fell backwards. He was up there, but he fell backwards. So he was up there again. And then Talladega, he ran out of gas on the last lap. That could have been his race to lose. So he's always there, but something's always happening. Whether he gets caught up in a wreck or running out of gas, you obviously couldn't predict. He was, the only one that ran out of gas on that Talladega race? But
Yep.
He's usually always there. He can get himself there. It's one, having to survive, and two, not making mistakes of one, putting yourself in the wrong lane, or, running out of gas. Again, obviously that was a mistake on the team, but I think he can get himself there. I wouldn't necessarily put him in the dumpster fire category that I would used to have him in on restrictor plates. I'd say he's getting better. I probably won't still put him on my fantasy team because I wouldn't waste him on that. But I also wouldn't be necessarily afraid as I was if he was on my fantasy team that I would have been 5 years ago.
Yeah, I definitely think. Also, I do think it's kind of like a mindset thing. You know what I mean? Like, he thinks he's bad, and so I think it also could be like a bit of a placebo where if you think you're bad, you're going to probably do not as good as you should. But I do think, like before, like you said, he's somebody like you just don't trust. You're like, get away from that guy when you're in the pack. But now I don't really feel that anymore. I think especially the stage wins kind of do it because he shows like the stage wins, they're kind of a mini, it's the mini finish. It's a finish. Yeah. It's you'll care a little less, but it's still a little mini finish. He's still chasing a checkered flag. So I think he showed that he can get it done when he's in that situation, but it's just getting that situation has been the hurdle that he has been unable to overcome as of yet.
5 years ago, I would have said that if you were a race car driver and you were driving behind, you pulled and got behind someone, there are 2 different people you'd want to stay away from. 1, when you saw someone with a rookie stripe, and 2, Kyle Larson. And now, the rookie stripes are gone, and Kyle Larson I wouldn't necessarily panic about anymore. So, that was all I had on my thing. Like I said, the only thing I have left is talking about some NASCAR news, and we covered them. No more Roval this year. And now there's no road course in the Chase. Any thoughts about there not being a road course in the Chase?
I think there probably should be like one. I don't think maybe. I think 4 is probably good for the schedule, but I think probably should move one into there just because, I don't know. It's supposed to be like a mini compact schedule. I think you got to put some variety in there. You got to be good at all sorts of types of tracks. What about you?
I agree. We have 4 on the schedule. I think it should be spread out. You have COTA in the beginning of the year. You're going to have Watkins Glen on Mother's Day weekend this year. San Diego race is in June, Father's Day weekend. And then Sonoma's thrown in there somewhere. Why don't we move Watkins Glen in September? Probably fine. I'm just thinking about Northeast weather. But if not, Sonoma, I'm sure Sonoma's fine in September. Move Sonoma to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think there should at least be one in there. You have to have that diversity that you have throughout the year, and if you're going to have a compact schedule for 10 races, one of them should be a road course. I agree getting rid of the Roval, though. I didn't like the Roval. I like Charlotte being back, but I think you can swap out something. What's in there this year? Gateway? Throw Gateway out, throw that into the regular schedule, and then throw in a road course.
That's where Austin Cindric won. We got to keep that forever.
Right. Last one I have is that this was news yesterday. This was news 2 days ago. Corey Heim to run 12 Cup races in 2026 with 2311. He still does not have a full-time ride. You know, we're now actually a week away from the Daytona 500, so it sounds like this full-time ride isn't happening. Although I still haven't heard. There's an Xfinity ride I still haven't heard who's
AM Racing.
AM Racing. Yeah, what's AM Racing doing? So, I mean, I don't know what AM Racing drives, and I don't know what... Okay, well, Corey Heim probably is going to want to stay with Toyota, so I don't really know there, but, you know, how does this guy that won a huge amount of races of truck races last year not have a full-time ride going into 2026? He at least now will have 12 Cup races he can race in 2026 and get him that experience, but... what's he going to be doing for the rest of the year? There's no reason that this guy should not have a full-time ride somewhere in 2026. Alright, well, I guess that brings us to the Daytona 500.
Finally.
We're now a week away. My favorite time of year. This next week is my favorite week out of the whole year. I am told that I'm generally acting off the walls because I'm just so excited. So, here we go. Buckle up, hammer down. We're about to start the best sport again in America this week.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching or listening wherever you're at. Subscribe if you want, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.